They told you wealth was about noise, that the people getting rich are the ones you see the most, posting, flaunting, talking loud in every room, that the secret to success is to show the world how hungry you are. And you believed it, because that's what they've always shown you. But they lied. They lied because if you knew the truth, you'd never waste another day chasing applause. The people who actually make it, the ones who break free, who buy back their time, who build empires, you don't see them coming. They're not the ones telling everyone what they're planning. They're not seeking validation before taking the first step. They are ghosts in a crowded room, silent, focused, deadly consistent. And by the time the world finally notices them, it's already too late. You've been tricked into believing you need to be visible to be powerful. That unless people clap for you, you're not doing it right. That unless they know what you're building, it doesn't count. But the truth is, the more you seek attention, the less you build control. Because every time you speak, you give away pieces of your power. Every time you show your hand, you reduce your leverage. There's a reason the most dangerous players in any game are the quiet ones. The ones who don't move until they've already won. The ones who are not reactive, but strategic. You don't see the roots growing. You don't hear the foundation forming. But one day, there's a tree where there was nothing. That's how real power is built. Unseen, uninterrupted. Look around. Most people are stuck in a loop. They talk more than they do. They dream more than they act. They post more than they produce. They wake up each day hoping something changes, but they do everything the same. And that's the trap. They're waiting for motivation, for signs, for permission. And while they wait, someone else is already doing the work. You can't wait for the world to notice you. You can't wait to feel ready. You can't keep making noise while your foundation is still paper thin. Because here's the truth they don't want you to learn. Real success is quiet. The real killers don't announce the plan, they execute. The ones who change the game don't ask to be seen, they simply show up when it's done. Let me tell you something they won't teach in school. There are people out there right now, less talented than you, less experienced, less connected, who are still going to beat you. You know why? Because they're moving in silence while you're busy seeking approval, because they're working while you're still talking, because they're not concerned with being impressive, they're focused on becoming unstoppable. If you ever want to shift your life, you have to kill the need to be seen before you've actually built something. You have to trade visibility for velocity. Stop announcing every goal. Stop telling people your next move. Just move. Just go. Just disappear into your grind. Because when you reappear, it should be with results no one can argue with. The reason most people never escape mediocrity isn't because they lack talent. It's because they're addicted to attention. They want to be celebrated for trying. But success doesn't reward intentions. It rewards execution. The ones who win aren't the ones with the best ideas. They're the ones who can stay committed when no one's watching. They don't need applause. They don't need to be hyped up. They've trained themselves to move even in silence. If something in this video really hit home for you, drop a comment below and let me know what stood out the most. I read every single one. And hey, if you're on this journey of silent growth, make sure you subscribe. There's a lot more coming your way. You're not weak. You've just been taught wrong. You've been told that motivation comes before action, that you should feel ready, that the perfect moment exists. But it doesn't. The moment you're waiting for, it never comes. You create it by moving. You create it by building, while everyone else is still dreaming, by acting while everyone else is still hesitating. That's how the gap is built. That's how you separate yourself. Let me be clear, success is not a lightning strike. It's not a viral moment. It's not one lucky break. It's a million invisible, boring, disciplined choices, every single day, in silence. And that silence? That's what separates the average from the unstoppable. That's the habit no one talks about, the one that changes everything, the one that starts today, not tomorrow. And while the world scrolls past empty motivation, chasing dopamine from short videos and fake success stories, the silent ones are stacking their wins, quietly, consistently, ruthlessly. And when they finally speak, the room listens, not because they begged for attention, but because they earned it in the dark. You don't need more inspiration. You need more action. You don't need more people to believe in you. You need to become undeniable. And the way you do that is by disappearing, not from the world, but from distraction, from noise, from the need to be liked. You disappear into purpose, into precision, into a routine so sharp it cuts through every excuse. So if you've been wondering why things haven't changed, look at your last 30 days. How much time did you spend building quietly? And how much time did you waste being loud about nothing? That's your answer. That's the mirror most people avoid. But it's the only one that matters. Now imagine what would happen if, starting today, you became the one no one sees coming. What would change if, for the next 90 days, you said nothing, but executed everything? What if your silence became your greatest leverage? Because that, right there, is where everything starts to shift. And that shift leads straight into the one habit that they never taught you, but that changes absolutely everything. There's a habit so powerful, so quiet, and so transformative that almost no one talks about it. Not because it doesn't work, but because it works too well. And if people started applying it, the entire structure of average would collapse. The system you were born into relies on distraction. It thrives on noise. But this one habit? It cuts straight through the noise like a blade. And here's the real twist. It's not complicated. It doesn't require money. It doesn't require genius. It requires something far more rare: consistency and silence. Every successful person you admire, whether they say it or not, has mastered one invisible ritual. Before the applause, before the spotlight, before the transformation, there's a moment early in the day when they sit alone with themselves. No phone, no audience. Just clarity, just cold, honest clarity about who they are, where they're going, and what needs to be done today. That's the habit. Not just planning, not dreaming, but daily review, daily realignment, daily confrontation with your own path. It looks simple from the outside. A notebook, a quiet morning, a list. Maybe even a simple question scribbled on a page. What am I building today? But that single question, when asked consistently, does something that motivation never will. It programs your brain for intentional movement. It pulls your identity out of reaction mode and locks it into creation mode. Most people start their day reacting. First thing in the morning, they check their messages, their notifications. They absorb other people's agendas before they've even connected with their own. It's like walking into battle with no armor, no weapon, and no mission. Then they wonder why they feel lost, exhausted, unfocused. It's not the world that's chaotic. It's that they never took a moment to anchor themselves. But the silent ones, the ones who separate themselves, they do something different. They guard their morning like a sacred ritual. They sit in the silence and ask, what are the 3 most important things I must move forward today? And then, here's the part that changes everything. They execute on those 3 things before the world even wakes up. That's not productivity. That's identity building. That's the practice of becoming someone who keeps promises to themselves. Because every day you do it, you become harder to distract, harder to knock off course, harder to break. There's a reason why top athletes, CEOs, creators, and leaders all preach about their morning routines, but rarely tell you what's actually behind them. The truth is, the habit isn't the cold shower, or the green smoothie, or the 5-minute meditation. Those are nice. But the engine, the real mechanism of transformation, is daily self-direction. When you build the discipline of checking in with yourself every day, without skipping, without waiting to feel like it, you send a signal to your brain, I am in charge now. And that changes your relationship with time. You stop drifting. You stop surrendering your days to other people's noise. You stop hoping. You start directing. Let me give you an example. There's a man who built a company worth millions, without investors, without social media, without any exposure. He kept a single spiral notebook. Every night he wrote down exactly what he needed to attack the next morning. 3 clear, measurable goals. He never shared them. He never bragged. But after 5 years of silence, his company was everywhere. When asked how he did it, he just said, I never missed a day of clarity. That's the hidden engine. That's what no one's teaching you. Because if you had this level of control over your own focus, you wouldn't need the endless cycle of content, hype, and surface-level advice. You'd be building while everyone else is scrolling. You'd be advancing while others are still overthinking. But let's be real, this habit sounds simple, and it is. But simple doesn't mean easy. Because the hardest part, doing it when no one's watching, doing it when there's no applause, no immediate result, no instant gratification. That's why most people abandon it. They don't see fireworks, they don't get a dopamine hit. So they stop, and they go back to living passively. But the ones who don't stop, they create compound progress. Think about it. One small decision, repeated daily, is nothing on its own. But stack that across 30, 60, 90 days, and now you've built an internal system so precise, so focused, that you can't help but move forward. And it's not just about goals. It's about the psychology underneath. Every time you start your day with direction, you reduce uncertainty. And when your brain feels certain, it stops panicking. You stop chasing distractions. You become calmer, sharper, faster, more dangerous. The habit is this: sit, reflect, direct, act, repeat. Do it every single day, not when you feel like it, especially when you don't, because that's when it counts most. You want to change your income? Change your daily focus? You want to change your body? Change your daily rhythm? You want to change your relationships? Change your daily awareness. It all comes back to this one silent act of alignment. And here's the kicker. The more consistently you do this, the more predictable your success becomes. It no longer feels like chance. You no longer rely on good days or perfect conditions. You just wake up, recalibrate, and execute. You become your own compass. Now ask yourself, what would your life look like if, for the next 30 days, you committed to this one habit? No noise, no skipping, no negotiating. Just daily private alignment with your highest self. Would your confidence shift? Would your results speak louder? Would you finally stop chasing and start building? Because the truth is, this habit is available to you right now. No waiting, no permission, no magic required. Just you and the quiet decision to stop drifting. And once you lock into this habit, something else starts to happen. You begin to understand the real power of silence, not just in planning your life, but in protecting it. You've been taught to speak, to explain, to justify, to share your ideas with everyone, as if that alone will bring them to life. But here's the truth no one wants to tell you. The more you talk, the more power you leak. The more you explain, the more fragile your vision becomes. Silence, not noise, is where the truly unstoppable begin. There's a psychological principle at play here, and it's brutal. It's called social reality substitution. The moment you start telling people about your goals, your brain rewards you as if you already achieved them. Dopamine hits. You feel seen, encouraged, but nothing has actually changed. No action has been taken. And now, without knowing it, you've traded real progress for the illusion of momentum. That's why most people talk more than they move. Because it feels good to be heard. It feels safe to explain. But safety is not where transformation happens. And while you're telling everyone what you're about to do, someone else is doing it quietly, without applause, without permission, without distractions. There's a reason the most lethal professionals in any field operate in silence. Assassins don't announce their targets. Champions don't share their training plans with the crowd. Strategists don't reveal their next move, because every time you talk, you expose your intention. And exposure invites resistance, doubt, and sabotage. Think about it. How many times have you shared a bold goal with someone only to be met with a look, a pause, or a, "Are you sure?" That single moment can plant seeds of hesitation in your mind. It's subtle, but deadly. You walk away less certain, less sharp, less committed, all because you opened your mouth too soon. What part of this message spoke to you the loudest? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you're building quietly but fiercely, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button so we can keep walking this path together. Real builders know this. That's why they don't announce. They disappear. They protect the energy of creation by guarding it with silence, not because they're afraid, but because they respect the process. They understand that power grows best in the dark. One of the most common patterns in failed execution is overexposure. You feel this internal fire, this idea burning inside you, and instead of channeling it into action, you spread it out. You dilute it by putting it into words, posts, conversations. And that fire, once externalized too early, fades. It becomes performance instead of preparation. The most powerful moves are made in the shadows, in silence, away from eyes and ears and judgments. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Silence is not the absence of confidence. It is the expression of mastery. There's a famous story about a samurai master who never spoke of his technique. He trained alone, fought in silence, and never shared his strategies. People feared him, not just because of his skill, but because of the mystery. He gave nothing away. That silence became part of his power. It created space for unpredictability, and unpredictability creates leverage. Silence isn't just about hiding. It's about owning your space so fully that you don't need to be validated in it. It's about refusing to explain your vision to people who aren't qualified to see it. Because if they haven't built what you're building, they can't understand the weight of your process. And you don't owe them access. There is also protection in silence. When you stay quiet, you avoid energy theft. Every conversation has a cost. Every explanation pulls a thread from the fabric of your focus. And when you protect your plans, you protect your peace. You create a force field around your mission. That's not being antisocial. That's being surgical. Ask yourself, why do you feel the need to share so much? Is it really to inspire others, or is it to get permission? Most of the time we talk about our dreams because we don't yet believe we can reach them. So we use conversation as a substitute for conviction. But what if, instead of talking about the next level, you simply went and built it? What if your silence wasn't weakness, but a weapon? The moment you stop explaining yourself is the moment you start becoming unstoppable. You start conserving energy. You start observing more, listening more, watching more. And in that stillness, you see things others miss. While they're shouting, you're calculating. While they're trying to impress, you're building leverage. And one day, when you finally move, it's surgical, precise, devastating. People underestimate quiet people. That's their first mistake. They assume you're passive, that you lack direction. But stillness is not stagnation. In fact, the most intentional people on the planet are often the quietest ones in the room. Because they don't need attention, they don't crave applause. They have something more powerful, clarity. Clarity doesn't scream. It doesn't need to. It walks into a room and changes the atmosphere. You can feel it, you can sense it. It's in the posture, the eyes, the energy. And that clarity comes from the decision to build internally without noise. If you're tired of being interrupted, doubted, questioned, then stop offering the world front row seats to a show that hasn't even started. Pull the curtain, work behind it. Let your silence become the tension that builds. Because when you do return, when your results finally walk through the door before you do, no one will ask you what you've been up to. They'll already know. And the best part? You won't need to explain anything. Your work will do it for you. Because silence, when paired with consistency, becomes undeniable. It becomes legacy. And legacy doesn't whisper, it echoes. But here's where things get even more dangerous. Once you've learned to protect your vision with silence, now you need to learn how to reinforce it with structure, because silence without execution is just hiding. They're not waiting. They're not stalling. They're not waiting for January 1st or for motivation to strike or for someone to come and give them permission. While the world is obsessing over mindset hacks, journaling prompts, and perfect routines, they're already halfway through execution. And by the time the average person finishes planning their perfect Monday, quiet executors have already taken 5 decisive steps toward their goals. This is the reality no one likes to admit. Results don't come from occasional intensity. They come from consistent structure. The people who rise, who dominate, who break through ceilings, they don't have better tools. They don't have better ideas. They have unshakable systems. Daily, disciplined, almost boring routines that the world never sees. And that's what makes them so effective. There's nothing flashy about a man who wakes up every day at the same time, tackles his non-negotiables, and goes to bed without needing applause. But that man is dangerous because he doesn't depend on emotions. He doesn't wait to feel like it. He does what must be done, rain or shine. That's not just discipline. That's identity. That's transformation on autopilot. One of the deadliest myths is that high performers are motivated all the time. They're not. What they are is systemized. They have structured their lives so tightly that the question isn't if they'll act, it's when. Their day runs like a machine. It doesn't matter how tired they are. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Because their discipline doesn't bend for mood. It bends reality instead. Imagine this. Two people have the same goal, to get fit. One watches motivational videos, hires a coach, buys new gear, and waits to feel ready. The other wakes up at 5:30 a.m., 6 days a week, and trains for 45 minutes, whether he slept 4 hours or 8. Who wins? The second one. Every time. Not because he's better, but because he's built a rhythm that doesn't break. That rhythm is everything. Napoleon Hill said, "Action is the real measure of intelligence." But not just any action. Repetitive, intentional, and high-leverage actions that stack over time. That's how the empire is built. That's how the invisible becomes visible. While others wait for perfect timing, the silent elite are already on repetition, Hartu 12, of the same brutal, boring, but effective task. And it's not just physical tasks. It's how they approach time. They time block. They cut off distractions. Their phones are not their masters. Their inboxes don't dictate their day. They protect their mornings like it's sacred. Because it is. Every minute you control before noon is a minute that compounds for the next 10 hours. But if the first hour of your day owns you, the rest of your day slips through your fingers. This is why routines matter, not because you need to follow someone else's 5 a.m. routine, but because your brain is a pattern-seeking machine. When you repeat a structure long enough, your brain stops fighting it. It stops negotiating. And once you cross that threshold, everything becomes easier. The cost of starting disappears. You just execute. And while others are asking, how do I stay motivated? You're already on task 3 of your daily ritual. There's something brutal but beautiful about this level of consistency. Because it doesn't care how you feel. It only cares that you show up. And that's what separates the ones who talk from the ones who build, the ones who inspire from the ones who transform, the ones who follow from the ones who lead. Let me give you a real-world example. There's a woman who built a multi-million-dollar business from her bedroom. No investors, no social media presence, just relentless, structured action. Every morning, 90 minutes of deep work. Every afternoon, 3 outreach calls. Every evening, 1-hour learning block. 6 days a week. No breaks, no off weeks, no dramatic pivots. 5 years later, she dominates an industry no one thought she'd enter. That's what happens when routine becomes religion. But here's the twist most people don't see. These people aren't rigid robots. Their structure gives them freedom. Because when you automate what matters, you reclaim energy for what's creative, strategic, expansive. You stop spending mental calories deciding what to do. You just do it. And that space, that bandwidth, is where genius lives. Structure is not a cage. It's scaffolding. It holds you up when life tries to knock you down. It protects your progress on days when your mind wants to quit. It's the invisible armor of every high achiever. And once you wear it, you realize most people aren't failing from lack of talent. They're drowning in lack of structure. The truth is, you don't need to do more. You need to do less, but more consistently. You need to identify your non-negotiables and install them into your calendar like oxygen. And then treat them like oxygen, not optional, not flexible. Essential. That's what winners do. They don't chase motivation. They eliminate choice. They remove negotiation. And when that habit takes root, it builds a version of you that doesn't crumble under pressure. One that doesn't need to hype itself up. One that just executes. Let's make this a conversation. Comment below with the line or idea that stuck with you. And if this kind of content fuels your growth, go ahead and subscribe. The next video might be the one that changes everything for you. Because when you're predictable in your process, your outcomes become inevitable. You stop being surprised by progress. You start expecting it, not from arrogance, but from alignment. And that alignment sets the stage for something even deeper. Once the rhythm is in place, once the routine is locked in, you realize something profound. The game was never about being seen. It was about becoming undeniable. And that's exactly what we face next, the final transformation. The rebirth that happens not when you talk, not when you plan, but when you arrive. And the world can't unsee what you've become. You don't get remembered for what you were about to do. You get remembered for what you became, for what you built so completely that the world had no choice but to acknowledge it. And here's the final truth, the one that makes everything else either matter or disappear. You become undeniable when your results walk into the room before you do. That's when the game changes. When you've moved in silence long enough, when you've executed without apology, when your structure has turned into rhythm and your rhythm into mastery, something shifts. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop explaining. You stop defending your path. Because the evidence becomes your voice. And that voice? It's louder than any speech. It's the project that went live while everyone else was still planning. It's the transformation in your energy when people finally meet you and realize they had no idea who you had become. It's the shift from who does he think he is to how did he do that? That's the quiet revenge of the disciplined. No drama, no announcement, just the results doing all the talking. And it hits different because the world isn't used to people who disappear and come back completely different. The world's used to noise, to hype, to shallow flashes of potential. But when you walk in with undeniable execution, when your energy says, I did the work, there's nothing left to debate. Let's be real. Most people don't make it not because they're not smart or capable or creative. They don't make it because they don't believe in delayed credibility. They want to be validated now, recognized now, followed now. But greatness doesn't show up in the short term, it compounds. It's built behind closed doors, while the world scrolls past illusions. And the beautiful part? Once you become that version of you, calm, sharp, centered, you don't chase opportunity anymore. Opportunity recognizes you. Because success, real success, is magnetized by discipline, people can sense when you're not playing the same game. They can feel when you've built something real. And when that moment arrives, everything shifts. So what now? You've been given the blueprint, the silent habit, the ritual of daily clarity, the power of structure, the protection of silence, and the reward of becoming undeniable. This isn't just motivation. This is the roadmap. The question is, will you apply it? Will you stop talking and start building? Will you stop waiting and start moving? Will you stop leaking energy and start protecting it? Because if you do, if you commit, not just today, but for the next 30, 60, 90 days, something sacred begins to form. A version of you that no one saw coming. A path that no one can walk but you. And a life that becomes impossible to ignore. And when that life starts to reveal itself slowly, steadily, silently, the same people who once doubted you will ask you for the blueprint. But you won't need to explain. You'll simply point to the result and say, this is what silence builds. Thank you for watching this far. If this message spoke to something deep in you, that's not an accident. That's your next version calling. And now, it's your move. If you're ready to keep building in silence, to keep growing into the version of you that no longer needs to speak to be seen, then don't stop here. Click on the next video that's now on your screen. Because this journey isn't over, it's only just beginning. And what comes next will take everything we've talked about even deeper.